forgotten my glasses. So I can see you all over there. It's a little less clear over here. Welcome to the February 27th Site Plan Review Committee subgroup meeting for the Wells Fargo Verizon site. We will be holding a hybrid public meeting which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia per the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted July 7th, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for Wells Fargo Verizon are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. SPRC subgroup members participating virtually include, can I have whoever's on virtually just to identify themselves if you are on the roster? Just if you're on the roster. Do we have anybody? Well, you know, we'll come back to that. Never mind. We'll come back to that. It'll be easier. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment to cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting will run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using Microsoft Teams link provided on the SPRC webpage, the project webpage, the county's events calendar, and the email notification sent to SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For our subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you're called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address it when it's appropriate to turn it on in a moment. The Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes. One, for SPRC subgroup members who need technical assistance, and two, for members of the public to add their names to the list for public comment, which will be taken at the end of the meeting. The Teams chat should not be used for discussion. Those who are planning to provide public comment will need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the recording during the assigned public comment period. If subgroup members participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn on your video feed and raise the virtual hand in Teams. I will monitor the video links that are on as an indicator of who would like to speak. I meaning we will monitor that. If subgroup members are participating via phone today without the video option, please announce your name and group you're representing, and I will verbally check on you to see if you wish to be recognized, as you do not have the video feed option. For our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, you will be called on to speak at the end of the meeting and will be allotted 2 minutes to speak on tonight's agenda item. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat for virtual attendees, or provide staff with your name if you're in person, and you'll be added to the speakers list. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with tonight's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. So let's go around the room just so I can orient myself to who is here for our meeting. Devanshi Patel, Planning Commission.
Jim Tell Planning Commission. And Al, Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
I'm Barnes Lawson. I'm the attorney for Verizon.
Gary Yuko with Verizon.
James Schroll, Planning Commission.
Collier Cook, Boston, Virginia Square Civic Association.
Christine Wood, Clarendon Courthouse Civic Association.
Mike Gill, Akridge, applicant.
Greg Van Wee with Jefferson Park Group, also applicant.
I'm Sarah Mariska with Odin Feldman Piddleman here on behalf of the applicant.
I'm Peter Schultz of the Planning Division.
Peter Talker, Planning Division.
Sarah Mohava on Housing Commission.
Oh, do you want to speak on it?
Oh,
There is a space.
I think way at the end.
We can also.
Okay, and then do we have anybody here from transportation? Is there anybody on here from on the virtual that's representing transportation? Chris, maybe?
Dennis Sellen, I'm here. I'm actually at an airport, so I'm going to just probably be on mute for the meeting for while I'm here. I'm trying to get on a standby flight, so I'm at an airport gate, and it's very noisy.
Yeah, okay. Anybody from Forestry and Natural Resources? Okay. Economic Development? Climate, C2E2. Disability Advisory Committee. Pedestrian Advisory Committee. We've got Clarendon Courthouse. Lion Park. Lion Village. Oh,
For
great.
Line Park, I'm Aaron Schutz with the Line Park Citizen Association, also Bicycle Advisory Commission.
Oh, fantastic.
Hey,
Thank you.
Mr. Schutz, could I mention, right now we just have Kathy McSweeney's name down as the Lion Park representative. So
She's our president, but she's not, as I'm aware, ever involved in these.
are you going to be the representative going forward?
Yes, and I was at the last meeting as well, virtually.
Okay, all right, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, we got Line Village here.
Just hold it.
Okay.
Okay, so, and we also have, we have Jason here for Lion Village. Okay, thank you. And then Ashton Heights.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
Jack
you.
Spilsbury, Jack Spilsbury representing Ashton Heights Civic Association. Thank you.
And finally, we have Boston, Virginia here. Do we have anybody else that is not on our roster but wants to be recognized as being present? Okay.
All right.
Here we go. Thank you, everyone. So welcome. As we move on very quickly through our agenda, we might even still be on time. We've done our, I'll turn it over for the number 3 on our agenda, architecture.
Well, I don't have a presentation.
Okay.
I hope everybody had seen the video from staff and from the developer speaking about architecture. So just reiterating really quickly some of the few things we thought might be good topics to discuss to get prime people: ground floor design, how the bank interacts with the plaza, building entrances, which are a sector plan zoning ordinance requirement, and how the applicant is complying with that. Concepts for Verizon building screening and improvement. And maybe finally, last but not least, which will spill over into the next SPRC when we get more into transportation, we can discuss the appropriateness of the drive-through. If at this point, Stefano, if you want to put up just a visual or something, feel free. You can share the screen. If you need me to give you permission, I can. No. Did the developer want to make any sort of statement?
No, we're
Okay.
here to
All
hear
right.
feedback, so
Okay.
everyone's happy to listen to comments, respond if possible.
So I think that typically, yeah. So typically what we have, or what I like to do at the meetings that I run is just go around the table around a specific topic. And then if there's something else that pops up in your mind, we're happy to do another round. So let's start with the first one, which is the ground floor design.
Okay, yeah, on the ground floor design, a couple things I noticed from the first iteration to what was just posted. It looks like the ATM is Irving has disappeared. There had been one first iteration right next to the park in the post.
I think there's just branding potentially.
Well, when I first saw the
Did it
original,
look like an ATM?
That looked like an ATM. It
Okay.
wasn't just branding at the top. I thought that was a great place to put an ATM, by the way. And I felt that even though the transparent glass didn't cover 75%, I thought that the point of the glass is to activate the street. I thought having an ATM on that wall really had the same function of creating pedestrian, what people want to walk by there. It's a destination that would in fact activate the street. So I was happy to see that, and I wasn't as concerned about the 75%, given that that was there. If that's not going to be one that brings that it goes back to why can't we have a little more glass? So that was my impression. Otherwise, I didn't have any concerns about it. And then adding the door there was good too. Thank you for doing that. So that was my initial take on the ground floor.
Okay.
We can talk about the other 18 later because that's
Okay.
that's a larger issue for them.
Okay.
This is related to the ground floor arrangement. I had a question about whether there is significant infrastructure under the plaza area.
Yes.
that you have to work around.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes
the
is a
short
simple
answer.
answer. A lot, most of which is Verizon's, and is high transmission fiber optic cable that is going into the switching station.
So the public plaza is clear, but the portion that is under the plaza on your site is full of stuff.
Correct.
I think it's both.
It's
I think
actually-
it's both.
Okay, so I'm thinking about tree pit depths and what you can do. I noticed that you had, I'm not trying to get into landscaping, but planters rather than
Right.
buried stuff. So, okay.
We're happy to provide additional information on the existing utility.
But you're exactly right.
conditions.
That's why they're planters.
Yeah, okay, so, and then I got a question about just the overall arrangement of the ground floor. Now, obviously, you want to have a variety of retail pockets here and there according to what, what is desired and what you can work out. Is there a particular reason why the bank has to be on the west side, on the northwest side?
Yes.
As opposed to over by the other side?
Yes, so the Wells Fargo's perhaps number one, if not number one, number two objective in this whole process is to maintain continuous operations on site throughout construction of the entire project. So in order to do so and leave them open and operating in their existing bank branch, we have to construct the new bank branch as a phase one on the opposite side of the site. And then once that new bank branch is open, they can close down and move out of the existing bank branch and free up the rest of the site.
So it's a process issue really that dictates why you couldn't put the bank on the other side of the building and then have a drive through off that street.
It is. I think not yet, but we've got representatives from Wells Fargo who are on the call who can talk a little bit more in depth about why that is and what their objectives are.
Going to say we can definitely have Wells Fargo address kind of the sum of issues if that's helpful. Get through some questions.
Because those things both of those two things seem to be the underlying parameters that cover a lot of things you have to decide. So, okay. Well, then I'll just say that I really like the design of the building and we'll get to the architecture, but I just feel like getting the right arrangement for the as best it can be done is the best way to start. So,
Mr. James?
Yeah, question, is there a, in the 4.1 submission, it doesn't seem like there's a bike room at grade. The bike room is P1 and below, right? Is there an opportunity to put one in grade?
We can look into that. There are a lot of competing uses on the ground floor here when you've got retail, office, and multifamily, all competing for that ground floor space who have their own vertical circulation needs and lobby needs. So it will be a challenge, I think, and then also to meet the loading and parking needs as well. So that will be challenging, but we can look at that.
Did you want to take the other ATM now, or do you want to come back to that?
I think we're going to come back to it.
Okay.
It might be the.
Okay. And then how close are you guys trying, or let me rephrase this, how far away are you from the 75% penetration, on the first floor at this point?
According to Wells Fargo's architect who's done the detail calculation, they believe we meet the 75% requirement. We need to provide the documentation to support that, but.
Is that true, Mr. Schultz?
Even on the Irving Street side?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, if you can provide proof of that, yeah.
Okay.
So if it's not all the way there, it is
It's close.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. I'll have more when we come back around. But
Okay.
thank you.
And sorry, part of the I think lack of coordination between the floor plan and what you see on the elevation was due to some last minute coordination with Wells Fargo to add the secondary entrance facing the plaza. So as that was incorporated, they were still trying to work out their layout, interior programming.
Could Stefano show the current, it's from the 4.1 where they show the full length of the.
Of the Irving Street side?
Yeah.
Stefano, can you pull up that Irving Street?
It's the
The rendering is what you're thinking about?
Yeah, the close-up of the.
Which image?
The rendering, that a close-up of the Irving Street building side.
You have one of the ground level.
This one?
Yeah.
Well, it's in the 4.1 plans on the left. It's one of the sheets past the floor plans.
It's in the presentation.
Yeah,
I know that's what
I think it's the elevation, not the rendering.
the elevation.
Oh, the elevation. Okay.
Yeah. I have it up if you tell me what page.
sheet is it, James?
I'm saying like, no, I mean, if he tells me which page you want me to look at.
There we go, yeah. Actually, that is the revised one with the door, right?
Correct.
It is.
Okay.
You can see the door in the last bay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it still seems like a fair amount of, like, opportunity for more transparency, but I guess we'll look to see your revised submission. And on the bike parking, kind of put that out off to my colleague here. Yeah, you just want to limit the number of doors you have to go through when you have a bike. So if it has to go below grade, then the shortest path to get there should be what you should do. And also encourage you to think about bike parking for not just your standard bike, but cargo bikes, e-bikes, like kind of the litany of things that we're going to have on the bike. All right.
What is your sidewalk width on Washington Boulevard, and what's your opportunity on the west side of the building?
Bong is on the line with Lean Associates, and Bong, if you want to address the sidewalk on Washington Boulevard.
Hard to read.
So Washington Boulevard sidewalk is starting from the west corner. We are maintaining 20 feet. Yes, right there.
So it is 20 feet continuous, or just?
20 feet continuous between two major crosswalk handicap ramps.
Okay, and then you've got tree pits and things like that.
So we removed them.
Towards the east, but not on the western side to accommodate.
It's across. Correct. I believe it goes down to 16 feet,
Yes.
which is the
Correct.
recommendation.
Also on the board of the Clarendon Alliance, and one of the things we like to do is activate the street, and it's a great place for restaurants and things like that. And one of the things, at least in Lion Village, when we talked about it, is why aren't we activating the area there? And the logical place to activate would be on the west side of the building, where the bank, and if you're trying to activate the edge of a park and an area like that, I can't think of one way in which you could least activate it by putting a bank there, which is open 9 to 5. And a smarter place for the bank is on Washington Boulevard, where you've got the street appearance. People know the bank, they drive by it, they know where it is. And that's probably also the best place for an ATM machine, because there's a fair amount of visibility. It kind of looked like the ATM area was going to go in the back of the building, where it's sort of the scariest place to go to use an ATM machine after dark. So anyway, my thought is restaurant activity on the west side, take advantage of the park, that also sort of activates the park. And it didn't look like there's a whole lot of retail on the east side of the building.
Sure.
Which also would activate space.
There is retail at the east side of the building. I don't know.
The northeast, correct. The northeast corner is a retail B is targeted for a food and beverage use that would have the ability to take advantage of the wide sidewalk on Washington Boulevard. That's about 4,300 square feet. The large block in the center is also retail space. Exact user TBD, but could be a daycare, could be a fitness user, could be a smaller format grocer potentially, or food and beverage, although.
Where would the daycare be?
Large ones.
The square orange block that's in the center of the building, it's about
Okay,
15,000.
that's not a very active use either. Inside the building might be better. So at least here I can see where the loading dock is now. It's on the back.
Yes.
That we couldn't figure out on looking at things so far. The parking garage is also in the back.
Correct.
And that's for both the office building and the residential building.
Correct.
Okay.
So this is my very first SPRC meeting ever. So I'm just gonna.
It's okay to pass. You don't
Yeah.
have to have a ground floor
I'm
design.
gonna listen, and if I have any.
Yeah. Yep, pass is great.
A lot of the things I was going to bring up have already been brought up about the bike room and the elevation of the Irving Street along the park. It's better, but it could be even better. And I appreciate what you've done there at the corner at Washington and where it turns into Wilson. That is, I think we're going to have to talk about that next time with transportation. That is currently a very bad interaction between bikes and pets. It wasn't well designed. It's unfortunate because it's brand new, but I think there's things we can do, but we'll save that for next time. And I assume we're just talking about the new building. We're not talking about Verizon at ground level at this point.
Verizon is on the subject. It is
Okay.
It is part of the site plan. So yep.
Yeah, it's just there's not much there. It's not what I would envision in terms of improvements. It's quite bland. I mean, I guess you can paint it, but it's the metal screening just sort of exasperates that sort of boxy industrial building. I think that could use a lot of improvement. While I think this building at the ground floor is wonderful. It's a very handsome building. That's all.
Yeah, the one thing that I think we would add from Clarendon Courthouse is we'd love to see more green, more actual plants. And in the context of screening the Verizon building, for example, I was walking around from Roslyn, and there are several examples along the way of screens that have plants growing up. We need more plants. We need more green. And the bikes and the pedestrian friendly, et cetera, but that's my guessing.
One, right, that's the north side of the building. It gets no sun. That's
There are shade loving plants.
We'll continue to look at that. We have looked at options to add green elements to that north-facing Verizon facade, and there are competing priorities for that streetscape. We right now we have a continuous street panel along the curb line within the required clear walking space closer to the building, which, given the limited amount of space there, thought was a better approach for having a green element, combined with potentially some painted mural or some other aesthetic improvement to the Verizon building, as opposed to a climbing vine still needs some amount of soil up against the building to grow in.
And I don't mean to imply that climbing vine is the answer, just generally the statement of more greening, and especially wasn't aware of the constraint about not being able to have tree pits in some of the areas. And when I look at it, I'm like, oh, well, it's really paved. There's a lot of not green. I mean, we have concerns about heat islands and things like that in this corridor. So we'd like more green things, please.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go to our virtual friends. Mr. Schutz.
Yeah. I would be remiss representing the Bicycle Commission if I did not also say bike room, please. I'd love it at the ground floor. If it's going down the garage, it needs to be accessible. I would agree the Verizon Center treatment is not that attractive. You can see from the architectural renderings here, they specifically don't let you see it. So, you're doing some good things. It's definitely an improvement, but I would agree pushing to try to make it softer, make it greener would be fantastic. And I agree. I know the Wells Fargo bottleneck you've got, but that is the wrong place for a bank. If Wells Fargo moves twice in a 2-year period in 30 years, they are going to forget that, but we'll still have a bank on the plaza in 30 years. So I think that should be considered a little bit more. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. And Mr. Spilsbury.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to use both my computer, which wasn't working. Now I'm having an echo. Could I hold and speak a little bit later? I'll try to get rid of the echo.
It's fine. You're fine with us. We're not hearing your echo. It's only on your side.
Yeah,
So.
I literally can't talk of it. It's
okay. That's fine.
I'll just hold off a second. Thanks.
Okay. We'll go back around one more time.
Yeah, I had mentioned about the Verizon building. First up, the original Bell Telephone Verizon building is a great building. It's just a good design. 1930s, they really built them really well. So it's a good civic building. The 70s edition, that's the problem one. That blank wall, I agree that if you green that up, trellises, that something grows up, and an arborist, landscape architect would be able to give you plants that would survive there, do well, because I'm not sure painting it with murals really does anything. We're all really want so much more green around that whole area. And you're fortunate because both your buildings have some space around them that you can do plantings and have done some plantings. That could be amped up a bit because, again, the building is a great building. So, there's a lot you can do with it because it has great bones. The 70s building, that you just want to screen as much as you can because it's just nothing. Around the corner on the proposed new street, I saw that we want to have a fence wall, whatever, around the parking lot. The design, I didn't realize until today that it's only like 42 inches high. That really doesn't do it. It's not a screening. That's just a divider because almost everybody walking by is going to be able to look at the parking lot. That's another place where maybe what you want to do is have trellises, have something green there, have large hedges, bushes, something that would look taller than just 48 inches or 42 inches. So that I think, and it'd be cheaper than putting bricks. I'm all for something that would be greener and possibly even less expensive. I agree we'd probably have more maintenance responsibilities, but just having a low wall there, I'm not sure that does anything for anybody. But other than that, yeah, that's the comments on Verizon, on the Verizon side.
Okay, Jack, you're back.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad you talked. I'd like to, first of all, we like the building design. Also, we're excited about the new building construction. We're concern is probably focused mostly on Irving Street and on Verizon itself. I second those, who are trying to figure out how to activate and make it transparent where it fronts on the park, but also have some concern about the shielding, particularly as it goes all the way along Irving Street, where Verizon currently is sitting. So anything that can be done to, I would support the statements earlier by Clarendon Courthouse about the greenery and making it more pedestrian friendly. I also was curious what the sidewalk width is there alongside the Verizon and the rest of the building as you approach the new 10th Road from 10th Street.
6 feet. It's 6 feet based on the sector plan.
6 feet?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a pretty narrow sidewalk. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I would actually like to second all the comments about the building. Greenery, it really would benefit from being organic in whatever way you can make that happen. We have if you look at the context within which the site is set, we have a park. We don't know how big it's going to be, whether the fire station will stay there or whether it's going to be a bigger park just down the street. We've got the triangular park across. We've got the urban street, little parklet area. We should try to look at that corridor along the Verizon building as a conduit, as a connection, to make it a green connection, even if it's only auditory and visual for people walking along. Native grasses work great. They're very tolerant. You can do, yeah, you don't, if you've got issues with the infrastructure underneath, you don't have to go with canopy trees. You can do a combination of understory trees and grasses and that kind of thing. If you've got some kind of screening going up, of course there are some vines that are quite tolerant, honeysuckle and other vines. I do have also some issues about that whole connectivity with respect to the actual streets, but I'll leave those for next time. But I do think that it needs to be perceptually a corridor between all these other green spaces that we're trying to develop to create the general sense that we've got nature in our urban development. And so I think anything and everything you can do to make that happen, and as Jim said, it could easily be cheaper than built stuff. And the brick wall next to the parking lot, well, if you need a brick wall to become basically a raised planter or some of these other kinds of things, that's fine. You don't have to count on it or build it to the size of actually screening visually. It just becomes, a base for some more natural features. So, and the last thing just on the ground level is, to the extent that it's possible, it is very advantageous to connect the tree pits under the sidewalk with the lattice structures that are available now, to allow all the trees to interconnect and to share a broader area of resources. It vastly expands what they have access to, and they can actually, depending on how much you believe in science, they can actually help each other. So I would really strongly go for that. And frankly, even in the planters, in the plaza, you could do that. You could actually do that. You might even get a magazine out of that.
James, anything else?
I would just like to concur with the comments about the screening of the Verizon building. I don't think what's being proposed is much better than what was there today.
Another question, what is the likely walkway from the metro into like Ashton Heights?
I would think a lot of the traffic goes down Irving Street.
All right, and that's.
I could confirm that, speaking for Ashton Heights. Yeah, a lot of our streets feed right in there, and particularly people from Kenmore to, basically down to Irving, they're going to the metro from Penn.
And if the west side of that building is a bank that closes at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, what's the walking situation going to be in terms of a sense of safety after at rush hour and later, especially during the winter months when everything's dark? It looks like a fairly bleak area to be walking through from Washington Boulevard down to 10th Street. And wouldn't it make sense to activate the west side of that building as much as possible so that people feel safe walking?
So you remember there's a hotel that's on the other side of that Irving Street Plaza that has its food and beverage program oriented towards the plaza. So what we've tried to do, understanding that was the case on the other side of that space.
So
was
there is activity there at ground level, or that's
at the Silver Diner, the Bingham Center building.
Because that's not built, of course, yet, so we don't know what it looks like.
But some of us are on both SPRCs, so.
Their loading dock faces Irving Street.
further down, I think.
Yeah.
Well, at 10th Road.
At 10th Road.
So it's not that far, and then there's no activation on Irving Street south of that.
The loading dock is in a very activated.
Yeah, and it's, I believe, residential all the way down the rest of that block.
For our standpoint, knowing what was happening on the other side of the Irving Street Plaza, and not yet knowing what DPR, how the design of that plaza is going to evolve, we attempted to create a circulation space, understanding that there was a lot of foot traffic coming from the metro into adjacent neighborhoods. So that's kind of, and understanding the limitations of the below grade infrastructure, that's kind of why we created the array of above grade planters with a walking space adjacent to the bank, which would free up, the rest of the plaza for greener elements and seating and the other more activated uses in that space. But again, we're happy to continue that conversation with both the other developer and DPR.
But there are minimal doors and whatever. We've got people coming and going on Irving Street. You've got I think it's an apartment building where the old Joyce Motors is. And that's, the entrance is at the corner of I guess, 10th, whatever it is. And, but it's otherwise dead all along the block. And is there actually, where the hotel is going, much activity on the Irving side?
Yes.
Is it windows? Are there entrances there? Or are the entrances basically on Wilson Boulevard?
No, I believe their food and beverage use for the hotel wraps the corner on and faces onto the Irving Street Plaza as well, and they're intending to have.
But you enter from Irving or you enter from the hotel?
I think it depends on if you're going to the hotel lobby or directly to the retail establishment.
Again, trying to activate things. You've got people moving through their commuters and all of that, and you want a feeling of safety and, eyes and ears on the street, that sort of thing.
Okay, just sticking to ground floor design, any, Mr. Bog?
Yeah, just kind of piggybacking on the gentleman's comment about people with disability and residents going into the apartment complex. I know we're just on ground level, and safety, that I would agree that would be pretty important down there, especially at night, because we know how that area is at night at certain times. So yeah, where are those entrances?
I think these are the residential entrances. Am I pointing in the real?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
The yellow.
Just yellow.
Yeah.
So there's no other entrances anywhere else to get to the residential?
Correct, on the ground floor.
This is the office entrance.
Correct.
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 Yeah.
Okay, and there's not even, so even if you want to get on that side, it wasn't like, there's not like doors to connect the blue and the yellow? Like if residents have like a pass key, like why can't they just come to the blue through the office space to get to the residential? And in addition to, I guess that's the new 10th Road or Irving Street. Because if everything's getting fobbed in with their phone or whatever, safety, and then also people with disabilities, they have to walk all the way around to the yellow. I just feel like that's just yeah. Like if systems are coming into place, you should be able to fob in through the blue, the yellow, and others.
Is there an issue around grade, I guess, and also accessibility? The question is around disability entrances to make sure that it's accessible to everyone.
It is a gently sloping site from top left to bottom right, so there are grade changes within the first floor that would make transitioning from the retail directly to the residential challenging. In addition, you have to cross the back of house spaces, loading and trash, that we don't often encourage people to cross as part of their daily experience in the building. In addition to the office, if you see on the bottom right of the blue space is an open stair that takes you up to the second floor of the office. So that's meant to be a controlled access space during business hours, and it's not meant for residents to be accessing on a regular basis. Again, this has a lot to do with the number of competing uses on the ground floor and the attempt to maximize viable retail square footages, as well as the bank, as well as meet our commercial requirements for the site. So it's something we can continue to look at. There is a stair entrance on the bottom left that, while not accessible, would be a secondary means for residents to get up into the building with a credential.
Yeah, but that necessarily wouldn't help with someone in a wheelchair or anything like that. So just putting it out there.
Do we know what the sidewalk width is on Hudson Street, on the Hudson Street side? Right in front of the entrance? That was part of the.
Bong.
Yes,
Hudson Street sidewalk width?
6 feet.
The clear walking space.
Clear walking space is 6 feet continuously, but most of the space will be 7'6". The very, very clear face to face is 6 feet where we have the drop off, but the rest of the site is 7'6". Yes.
See a lot of door swings in that space. No, that's
Sorry, thank you.
And then the other thing, I think that what Jim and I were kind of just talking about right here is there's also, what Bong just said, is like a drop off in that space too. So that in some ways that, I mean, it doesn't answer all the questions and all the concerns you've raised, but just I wanted to raise your attention to that point.
Okay, yeah, like there's just been so many discussions about kind of live, work, and uses of office spaces and residential. And if, I understand activating everything. But if there's only a certain spot where residents are using, and there's so many other opportunities to go, that could be an option. And also safety as well. I believe that too. We all know what this area looks like at certain times. So that 10th road.
Thank you.
But you would not allow restaurant space on.
I want to stay away from this interaction because that's our next topic. I just want to get through ground floor design real quick. I know we've already had a lot of interaction discussion, so maybe it'll help us the next time around, but let me just get through this round on ground floor design.
But I'm really focusing on entrances and whether you'd if you've got a 6 foot clear width sidewalk and you're going to try to put tables in them, there's no way people can get by.
But that's
There's
not
none
where-
on
yeah.
Hudson Street because.
Correct. Any outdoor dining would be
Well,
on.
no,
Yeah, I don't
Washington
think staff would,
Boulevard, not Hudson.
yeah, staff, would-
6 feet.
yeah, we wouldn't permit tape on a 6 foot clear. That's a bare minimum for this area. So, and it sounds like the developer understands that.
Right, totally. Yep,
Talking, continuing on Hudson Street, it looks like some of the door swings swing out into that 6 feet.
There is a shy, the Clarendon sector plan allows for a shy zone for door swings even into that 6 feet. That's my understanding, but I can look at that again.
I think the primary entrances, though, even though they're depicted, if they're not depicted that way, would swing into a vestibule for the residential lots.
Inset, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Wood.
No, I was just seconding Collier's point about the sidewalks on the non-principal streets are only as wide as they have to be, and we would love to see them wider. 6 feet isn't much, especially if you're planning to do anything else there. And there are scooters, and there are bikes, or there are going to be bike racks. Is there anything else?
The county's not
Aaron?
good at enforcing things.
Aaron?
Yes?
Did you have any final comments on this first topic, ground floor design?
No, I mean, it's an attractive building, but I think there's been a lot of comments about making it even better.
Thank you. And how about Jack? Any last comments on this topic? No? Okay, so I think we've also done a lot with the, in this last discussion round, we did a lot with concepts for the Verizon building screening and improvement. If there's any additional comments just on that topic, maybe you can just raise your hand instead of us going all the way around. All right.
It's like a Bill.
Oh, Bill?
You know, a part of the Verizon site, if I remember correctly, there's, and I think it's in that lower right-hand corner of the picture, there's a below-grade garage entrance there, and there's, I guess, a wall on the other side. How is that going to be treated with the new road going through there and so forth?
It's a loading dock, not a garage entrance. But it does slope towards.
It does go down.
It slopes towards, it does slopes towards the building.
It's like 15 feet below the level, and
it slopes down. I don't know if it's
looked around there before, and
yep. So
there's a, you have to look at it. Can you call that up on the screen? Has it ever gotten on the screen? Can you call up the plan for the Verizon site? It's a loading dock, and there is an underground storage.
and my real question is about the safety, and it's not something, it's not at a level where people can fall into it. They can climb up on the wall and sort of run around it, and, you know, so that it's done and it can be treated in a safe way.
So we're not proposing any modifications to that loading dock. It, I believe, has a fence on top of any drop-off now, so
I just don't remember what it looks like. I know it's there.
Sure. I think it's a gradual slope. It's not.
Gradual slope.
It's not anything extreme.
It's a there's an underground storage tank for the generators, and it slopes back to it's a dual function thing.
I'm not suggesting you do away with it. It's just that make sure it's safe and attractive, and isn't an attractive nuisance to kids. That's all.
That's part of what we were.
Bill, we don't have any kids in Clarendon. Don't worry about that.
We were trying. That was what the wall was trying to do, was keep it.
Okay.
Pedestrians out.
Any other comments on this topic? Perfect. We've started discussions on interaction with Plaza. Jim?
Yeah, Plaza, because that has to go through a community process to have a design, I'm not going to tell you guys to do anything particular with it, because that really should be done in coordination with that larger process. However that comes out, that I'll be happy with. So I'm not looking for you to have a particular design right now to that portion of the building.
Great. Yeah, I think what you see is placeholders, and
yeah, that's all
exactly.
it should be.
We'd like to incorporate trees there because that's the place where we can.
But
It should be the larger process really that's going to have to determine what really ends up on there.
Great.
And I echo that slightly different way. Don't anticipate overstructuring, because you want it to meld with what else is coming through the park planning process and look natural. It'll expand the sense of what it all is together. And so, yeah, just kind of have it ready to receive in that sense.
Yeah, echo those comments, just that you need sufficient space for the planning of that park. So echo the other comments.
Your turn.
For the plaza?
Interaction with Plaza.
You mean on the west side?
Yes.
What is the interaction? Other than it looks like a green barrier there.
I think the interaction is pending further coordination with the public planning process for that plaza. So we're open and willing to.
Again, the ideal thing is don't put the bank there, and some
got
kind
that.
of other active use, and which could actually flow out into the park a little bit. And that would be probably active use after dark as well, especially in the nicer months of the year.
No comment.
The only thing I'd say is, even though I don't know if it's on the master transportation plan, people are still going to bike through here. And we need to just sort of consider where they would go, so they're not in the way of something. So whether they're over here on the west, by the bank, or through the park, or on the other side, we just need to sort of visualize where that route.
And then Aaron. Anything on interaction with the plaza?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Wells Fargo site being there is my biggest complaint about it. I agree. What the county comes up with needs to incorporate bicycle and scooter use and people hopefully hanging out there, tables and chairs or something to give a little respite in that area. That's all.
Thank you. Jack.
Yeah, my concerns are similar. I think they've been largely voiced, but it does look like there's sort of a barrier between the building and the plaza. I don't know if that's just from the rendering, but if people are walking along the sidewalk there, can they walk directly into the park, or are they blocked by the a raised area for trees? Somehow, if that could be integrated so that it's easy to access the park while walking along Irving Street. I mean the plaza when I say the park.
James.
So in the public spaces master plan at the back of that document, there's a lot of good design concepts about privately owned, publicly accessible open space. And so I know this is going to be a public process, but might do some thinking about how we communicate that this is a shared space, a publicly accessible space. We have a lot of places in the county that don't read as public spaces, they read as private spaces. And so, and then our planning staff, so Chris and others, I think we have some on the line tonight. Our architectural team could help with that kind of thought process as well.
That's great. Yeah, okay. we've put forth some ideas to county staff based on thinking from our landscape team as well as the Bingham Center landscape team. So there's some thoughts out there, and we look forward to working together.
Yes, not a critique, just more things to think about.
Yeah. In case you needed some more.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing else going on.
Sarah doesn't need more things, right?
Okay, next topic, building entrances and compliance with the sector plan or zoning ordinance. Jim, read it again. Yeah. Building entrances and compliance with the sector plan or the zoning.
Oh, I have no concerns on that.
This could be a lightning round.
I love that.
No pressure. This isn't the same thing, sorry.
Not really, but yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think the only thing there was an issue of the entrances was solved the 50 feet, right? So I don't know if there's anything remaining.
Okay. This is your time.
I think I've said.
Okay.
No.
You want lots of doors and entrances on the streets, there's activity, that sort of thing.
Sarah?
Just my comments from before, just so residential, not just limited to that yellow.
No issues.
Thank you.
We've covered it.
Thank you. Aaron?
I have no comments. I like the addition of the doors, and if one door led to the bike room, that'd be cool.
And Jack?
Yeah, I like the entrance being added on Irving, and I think if it looked inviting, that would be very nice.
All right, so that goes to configuration of the bank. Yes. Jim?
Yeah, so we're moving into the ATM.
That's going to be the last topic, but you know what? Let's just push them together. Configuration of the bank and the ATM.
Yeah, I mean,
Or the drive-through.
Having the bank on the other side would be great. Just flip things around, but I understand if you're dealing with the construction issues, and if the bank is willing to move twice, you can always do that. So throw that out there. But other than that, I'm going to work with it. The ATM, the auto access. Now, this is an ATM. It's not going to be like what's there now with the vacuum tubes and it's actually
just an ATM.
drive-in teller. Okay. Could people walk up to that? Because looks a little bit dicey to have that actually, because right now, the ATM on the site is actually on Washington Boulevard. People who want to use the ATM have to park in your lot, because I use, disclosure, that's my bank. So I use it all the time. I walk probably 2/3 of the time to use it, drive 1/3 of the time. But to use that ATM, you can easily walk up to it. something like that, it's not as easy to walk up to. But saying having maybe an ATM on Irving would be good. When I first saw this, my first reaction was, hell no, for an ATM, the drive an ATM. At this point, I'm not a hell no, it's more like I'm not thrilled with this. The reason I've softened a little bit is that the next block over, the bank, not the bank, the post office, as they drive up.
Yes.
Box. And that's been there for ages. And we use it all the time, and people walk up to that too. But that's been there. So just one block away, that street functions exactly the same as this street's going to do. It has the loading docks, it has the drive up post box. Actually, this is improved because it's way wider sidewalks than that has. Walking is not most pleasant on that other block. So I get that. And that's one of the reasons I've softened a bit on this. That said, this is the most walkable place in the county, just about. And drive up for anything just really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I need to know more about why we have to have that, and you would have to have a second ATM that people could walk up to, because it's walkable. A large number of people use the walk up right now, and this doesn't work. Now I have seen. 10 years when I used to go to Chicago regularly on business and being in the Loop, right in the Loop, one of the huge office buildings has a drive-up bank right under the L. It's bizarre. So there is precedent for this sort of thing in a highly walkable, transit-oriented environment, which is even way denser than anything we have in Arlington. But it still doesn't make it right. So this is where my brain is going both ways on this. So that's my rant on that one.
So, thanks. Yeah, so my online comments were about flipping the bank on the other side. I still kind of favor that if the process could allow it. I think it gives you more options for a lot of things, including activation of the whole west half of the building. But my main issue about the drive-through, and maybe this isn't, I don't know if this is the best time to raise it, it brings in the whole issue of the whole traffic pattern of 10th, both from Wilson, I guess it's still 10th, the tracks, and then Irving, and then over to Hudson, because they all appear to be two-way, but they've all got loading docks, they've all got semi-trailers in there. They've all presumably have some activation on the ground level where you're gonna have people walking around. And I just think that this is setting it up for some serious problem, just in terms of the interaction of all modes. And one thing that might help actually, and I don't know, this may be something the county has to do with, and not you guys, is could all of those be one way? And get a flow that makes more sense in terms of all the different people that have to use it. Because right now, it looked to me, and I'm not an expert like Chris Slatter and the others, it looks to me like it's just setting up to make a quagmire out of this whole network of pathways that are going to be used by all different kinds of vehicles. So I have a concern about that.
So you're recommending a transportation study?
I'm recommending turning it over to Chris.
He'll be here the next one.
So, but that's the main thing. I didn't, otherwise I don't have anything new to offer about the ATM itself.
James?
Yeah, so a couple questions. So how many cars can queue in the ATM kind of pull-off lane?
It's Matt Perez with Polar, our civil engineers.
Michael here is on, I think.
Mike.
Yeah, Matt Perez here. There's three there's space for 3 cars to queue off the 10th road.
So the 4th car spills into the travel lane?
Correct.
And does the 3rd car conflict with the loading, or can that 3rd car still queue without conflicting with the loading? Because there's 2 loading bays there.
Right. The 3rd car would partially block the loading. Excuse me.
Okay. So you basically have a 2-car queue without conflict. Okay. That's a problem. That's a problem. How many times would you estimate that the bigger bay, which it looks like the bigger bay, will be filled? How frequently will that occur in your estimation?
We would have a dock manager on staff who would be able to coordinate deliveries. But it is likely to be most heavily used by the corner retail space. And so that's probably deliveries 3 or 4 times a week, I would guess.
Okay.
Daily, once a day at most.
Once a day during the week?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
And then how many, what's the traffic light like to the ATM? What are you estimating the average daily trips to the ATM?
So our Lisa Cameron, who's with Wells Fargo, is on the line, and they have full daily counts of the ATM, the existing ATM configuration.
But they can't tell if it's walk up or drive up.
No, that they do know they know what the drive-through lanes that exist today.
Okay. But the drive-through lanes today, though, are the pneumatic tubes with
So
the teller,
teller.
whereas now we're talking about an ATM without humans there that's available at all hours.
Correct.
So they're not really apples and
And
apples.
one of the lanes today might have an ATM.
That's right.
No,
No.
they're
Okay.
both teller.
No.
It's just the vacuum tubes.
Okay.
It's 3 lanes. I'm not sure all 3 were used.
Yeah.
At least 2 were definitely used.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it probably would be helpful then to just get apples to apples numbers of drive up ATM so we have something to compare it to.
Okay.
I would say, given what I've just learned, this seems like more conflict, and that you're, I know this is a private road or whatever, but that that this road could break down pretty regularly, and that might mean that vehicle or that truck that's pulled up to unload gets parked somewhere else, and then causes cascading issues. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of this, and I would also say that this area has a 96 walk score. We shouldn't be building more drive-through in Clarendon. We're tearing it down elsewhere along the corridor. We should be doing it here. Totally let the ATM as a walkable bay. This is a problem.
Where is the ATM machine going to be? Is it in that green island?
It is, correct. It's on the left-hand side of that island, correct.
So the cars that are coming in from,
Right to left.
from Hudson, I guess it is, and going out towards.
Correct.
So what is the garage entrance there? Is that for trucks, or where do the residents come in?
That one is the loading dock, and then the lighter shade of gray in the middle is the parking.
Okay. So you've got both of them roughly where the entrance is. That's a lot coming together.
That was James.
Do we have any other drive-through ATMs left in the corridor?
Yes. In the where? In the world?
Corridors. No, there's some other road.
Has a drive-through ATM.
So does the Truist
Yes.
on Langston Boulevard.
Because most of them are gone.
It's in the corridor.
In the corridor.
The square, that's gone.
PNC.
But there are very few left. And generally, they don't have these drive-through things anymore in the border. And I don't think there are any others in Clarendon other than Wells Fargo now. McDonald's tried to put into that drive-through down in the block where Ethan Allen, the Cheesecake Factory are, and the board would not go for it back then. That was like 20 years ago. And I remember Mayor Margaret Whipple saying this is a no-brainer, and that was the end of that. But, I mean, they take up a lot of space, and people just generally don't do a lot of their banking through ATMs anymore.
At least not in their cars.
Well, I wouldn't beg to differ, but anyway, go ahead, Sarah.
So, again, residential, I see it more, an ATM would be better on Washington Boulevard. I see that as a thing, like a valet spot for Ubers and Lyfts to go through a lot faster than like, I mean, I don't know a lot of people carrying cash nowadays and getting cash and everything's, going cashless, touching. And yeah, like if there's any cars, that whole street, and we know certain times this area gets crazy traffic. And if there's 3 cars there, it would be crazy. And then again, it'd be nice to have a resident opening there. And if people are getting dropped off, they're not causing traffic on the other roads because there is an indent drop off resident to be able to go up and then continue on the way instead of an ATM machine. I cannot remember the last time I used an ATM. Personally, like if places need cash, they take cards. So
For your phone.
on my phone, yeah.
Yeah, sort of following up on prior comments about sort of how these are sort of going away. I'm worried if this comes in, this will be sort of the magnet bringing undue traffic into the part where you don't want traffic. This is what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid it, or we're trying to build a place that's great for walking, hiking, getting around transit. This is not what the neighborhood needs. And also, again, it takes up a lot of space that could be a lot greener. I mean, 3 trees on that entire southern elevation. That's not great.
Yeah, this is our neighborhood, and we're pretty firmly opposed to the drive-through concept. Nobody needs to stay in their car to get cash in Clarendon. We'd like to see it greener.
Aaron?
Yeah, I'm not that young, but I would agree that I have not gone to an ATM in a couple of years. I just don't know why we want them to be there via car. I do think it's something we'll laugh at if it goes in 10 years from now. If you want to put it in there, put it on the Washington Boulevard side for pedestrians, because there's a ton of pedestrians there, and you get all these people walking by, coming and going from the metro. If it's right in their face, they'll stop. If it's drive-through, they're not going to stop. I agree with Collier. We don't want it to be a magnet. I don't think ATM drive-throughs are that valuable that that's a reason for us to draw everybody in. Have the applicants thought about underground? You think about the Harris Teeter on George Mason, underground curbside pickup, fantastic there. It's a really nice, well-lit, safe feeling space. That would get it out of the way and just make it accessible. Figure out how to do that, and then you can have full service. You can have the tubes. You can even have a 2-story Wells Fargo where they can actually, see you face to face if that's a value to the company. That's all. Thanks.
Can I just add that I don't have an objection to there being an ATM, especially if you want to put it on Irving Street or wherever the bank ends up going. I don't want it to be a drive-through.
Jack?
Yeah, I've been trying to conceptualize the traffic flow there, and I assume that Irving is a 2-way street, but it's blocked at the end. Is that right? Someone going up Irving or parking on Irving, what would their outlet be? Would they be doing a U-turn and going back out on Irving, or would they more likely be also using the same route on 10th Road? And is 10th Road 2 ways? I certainly hope not.
It is.
I mean, excuse me, yeah, 10th Road, because that's, whoa. I would think you go up 10th, possibly use that as an exit to get out of Irving Street without having to do the U-turn. But why would you be inviting traffic to come into Irving Street there? That makes, I don't understand that at all, but maybe that's a different set. That goes beyond just the ATM. I agree with the other comments I've heard in general. I don't object to ATMs. I think they're still useful, but I do wonder about the coordination of the multiple uses and the traffic flows here. That's it.
So I am going to say something now. I think I kind of agree with Jim on Tell Me. I don't feel as strongly as everybody else on this ATM. But I will recognize the fact that exactly what Collier said, that it could theoretically be a magnet for people who are kind of driving through and then staying in their car and circulating through that area because there's a drive-up ATM. I will also say I use the drive-up ATM regularly. I deposit all my checks through the ATM unless I'm at work, in which case then I do walk up to the ATM and deposit all my checks through the ATM that way. But there's several drive-up ATMs on Langston Boulevard. It's a very different corridor than what we're talking about here, and I think that's the reason why I agree with what Collier's saying here, is that, you know, in that space, it looks and feels differently. It doesn't, you know, there's not this issue around queuing like James has brought up with my bank in particular, which is Truist on Langston. You could have like 15 cars in that lane and not block anybody, right? It's like behind the building and there's no problem. But here, if we have more than two in a space and now we're starting to block something, then the truck might get affected. It could be a domino effect. So I wonder, I know that this is particularly important to the bank. And I wonder if there are other iterations that we could be thinking about given the comments that we hear today. Okay, wait.
You know,
I wanted to, Lisa
Lisa,
Cameron,
yeah.
who's the head of retail banking operations for Wells Fargo for all of the Mid-Atlantic, is on the call. And I wanted to see if we might give her a chance to talk, just to hear the bank's perspective about this whole question. So Lisa, I heard you a second ago, if you want to
chime in.
Yeah, thank you very much. First, let me say thank you for having consideration of the design that our developers have put together. We're proud to own this property in the community and have been a member of this community for a number of decades, serving you all in our current location, and join you in wanting to activate this acre of land in such a prominent area going forward. We do see, particularly over the last several years with COVID, we have seen an increased use of these drive-through lanes, and we want to be respectful to those who may no longer want to come into the facility to do their banking, for families with children who want to be able to stay in their car to make their deposit, as the facilitator said, or to get cash. And I know that a lot of us aren't using that much cash anymore, but we do still see, particularly in some of these markets, a continuous use for this. I do want to address that both the design that you are seeing and some of the former designs, there will be a walk-up ATM, either a vestibule walk-up ATM or a through-the-wall ATM on the Washington Boulevard side. That will be there to support the area around all of the restaurants and retails on the weekends. Any of us who have lived here for a long time and raised young adults in this area. Sorry, know that there is quite a large group of folks in this area on weekend nights. Our parking lot has long been used to support many of the retailers around the metro stop in this area on the weekends and weeknights. And I guess that's we are again privileged to work with everyone. We are also looking to our neighbors who are also developing their properties to support this activity of the Irving Street Plaza. in addition to the bank branch. It has already been mentioned that in order to facilitate continuous operation to our customers in this market, who we do put as our highest priority, as well as the community, we do not want to disrupt their banking. But in addition, one of the greatest drivers of success of a bank branch is its visibility, and this major intersection is the place for a bank branch to be. If we were coming to the community and that was a vacant retail location, that's the location that we would want to be at in any community, is the primary location on a major intersection within visibility of the metro stop. So those are the drivers that we look for success, and why it would be important to us to be in this location on our property.
Thank you. Jack, can we have you turn off your camera, please? Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, I was wondering if, now that we know that it's going to be an ATM on Washington Boulevard, which is a great place it should be where it is right now, and it's used a lot, so that's great. But instead of the drive-through, you can convert that lane line there into 3 angled parking spots. People can just jump out, use an ATM, and then get back in. So without having to be a drive-through, that could be an alternative.
Can I, just a comment of talking about people that drive through or use it, looking at the other levels of the units, they're going from studio to like 2 bedrooms. So they're not necessarily going to be families in there to be using this necessarily drive through. Like probably going to park their car, residents, and then in the space and not drive that much. So again, yes, if it's a quick like 15-minute stop, sure, but I don't. I wouldn't use, like, just me personally use drive through, but I look young, but I'm not that young. But I think there's just other uses for it in a drive through ATM there. Personally, just, and then also the residents is going to be living there. They're be parking their car and walking, Metro, Uber, Lyft. That's what I see in this area particularly.
Okay, final comments on this? Anyone else?
No, other than the bricks and mortar banks seem to be going away.
Don't tell
The site plan is called the Wells Fargo.
It's very few banks are building new bricks and mortar type offices. I mean, Bank of America has sort of cleared out of the corridor. I mean, they have a smaller office now down at Courthouse. It used to be twice the size. I guess the Roslyn one is still there. Virginia Square is now just an ATM machine across the street from where the bank used to be.
Relevance though. Relevance though. What's the relevance?
What's the relevance?
Yeah. What's your point?
The point is, why do you need a drive-through? And we even really need a bricks and mortar ground floor bank office.
Right. Unfortunately, that's not our.
So, I mean, they're fine.
Yes, I mean,
but it's going in the other direction.
I think to be clear, one part of the transaction that is important is, so Wells Fargo owns the parcel today. They will continue to own the land under their bank branch facility. So they're not a tenant. They will remain an owner and long-term owner-operator of that facility. So it's important for them, as Lisa said, to maintain a presence and a visible location in the Clarendon neighborhood that supports not just residents of the building and of things that are walkable to this exact location, but also the residential neighborhoods that are a little bit more of a walk or a distance away and may not be as convenient a walking location to the bank branch as others.
Okay, any other comments about the configuration of the bank and the drive-through? So no pressure, you don't have to have any. Yeah, okay, perfect, fantastic. Okay, listen, so, anything from anyone, Aaron or Jack, did you guys have anything else? Seeing no hands,
Yeah, no.
thank you so much. Our next meeting, our next SPR, yes, sir.
Sorry, one more thing, just while Verizon is here, I thought it might be helpful to give some context to what the screening is intended to accomplish and when and why it's
Proposed
designed.
as is.
Yes, proposed as is.
Did you want to add to that, or did we already finish that? We finished that conversation.
I didn't go over why we put it
Okay.
up there or anything like that. The reason the screening is there is for sound attenuation of our generators.
Okay.
When this building was built, the property line was not at the wall. The property line was a long way away, 20 some odd feet. When you put the property line at the wall, the sound does not meet code for current at the current code level when you move the property line closer to the building. We needed to do something to the generators to either muffle the sound at the generator or at the wall. We also needed to, you didn't have it, but we also have a top to it, so the apartment house cannot look down into our generator compound and see the tops of the generator. The rents that are going to be charged, they don't want to look down at the top of the generator or hear one. So that is the reason for the screening. It is not just a visual screening, it is a soundproof screening. The other for wrapping it around for the rest of the building there on day 1 and day 2. Day 2 is for future net generator needs in the building if the need for power increases the building because equipment's changed and those kind of things. Very hard to see where telecommunications is going today. I started in this business 36 years ago, and we still had dial phones and stepper equipment in the rural areas. That's all gone. It's all gone to fiber now. Fiber does take as it changes, the equipment type changes, but it still needs space and power. On the roof, also it doesn't show it here, but if you day N on the lower design there, we do have screening around additional cooling towers and that kind of thing up there in the event that additional cooling is needed in the future. And then the long wall right there, that is, you don't know it, but you can't see it there where that car is in the center picture. That is a cable vault. I've had the Arlington County people through it. The reason there's no green things there is they won't grow. It's about 24 inches underneath that. There's a solid concrete top, and that's what's there. There's dirt on top of concrete. It doesn't grow.
That's the Irving Street side of the one-story addition.
Yes.
Just about the length of that.
Along the length of that building right there, along the front that you see on North Irving Street there, it is pretty much solid concrete out to the sidewalk.
Helpful for you to walk through that. So some things maybe to look at. Crystal City, there's a fair amount of murals that they've done on kind of concrete above grade. If you can't do green, there's no reason it just needs to be a blank boring facade.
Except for Jim doesn't want
But our sign ordinance got updated. I think murals are now allowed. You get check that, but there's maybe some things we could do there. And I guess the other thing is lighting, which has already been kind of mentioned here. But people don't like to walk from sameness to sameness. And so if you don't have any porosity or anything like that, then maybe we can't have it. At least think about how you can make it prettier than it's being depicted.
Okay.
Stefano maybe could go to the mural slide.
Yeah, the previous slide, I think, had some ideas
Just-
for how we might incorporate mural,
Yeah.
understanding our limitations about.
There you go.
We're thinking the same thing too.
Cool. All right. Awesome.
That was our thought.
I just wanted to mention just that while we do not have an HLRB representative here, the Historic Preservation Office had suggested that Verizon and the developer go to a DRC, if you guys could at some point, and get some ideas from them on improvement of the one-story addition.
What was that?
The Historic Preservation Office, I think
We've reached out to them.
yeah,
Yeah.
reached out to them,
Lawrence
wanted
reached out to
to meet with their design review committee to get some ideas about what you could do also with us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the example is on 23rd Street.
That's application.
Yeah.
Okay, next steps, next meeting, April 17th is our next scheduled SPRC for this project. And I saw Mr. Byrne come on. Mr. Byrne, you have public, you want to do public comment? Do we have public comment
Yeah,
for him?
yes. Do we have any, yeah. Mr. Byrne? Okay.
Okay. Mr. Byrne, we have 2 minutes for public comment. We're going to put a clock up for your reference, though you've been beating the clock as of late. So I hesitate to even put it up there for you.
It may take 3 minutes, but anyway. Number one, the height we increased 110 feet to 128 feet. Remember, there's a view corridor in the Virginia Square section that goes all the way from Virginia Square Metro Station to the top of.
Oh, you're muted, Mr. Byrne. Okay, go ahead.
It goes from the Virginia Square Metro Station to the top of the Olmsted Building. When you're making the updated sector plan, this was all measured and said if this building is 110 feet, that won't affect that view. And measurements were taken. Now this is 128 feet. That may block the view. You just don't go against what was already addressed in the sector plan. This was not anticipated at all. And you have to check the view from from Virginia Square Metro Station, also from the base of that building. See if you can see the top of the other building. Number one, don't refer to the plaza, that so-called plaza, as a plaza. It's a green street. It was called that. It was made that by when they introduced the Clarendon Circle. They did an improvement to it. And they created what is called a green street. It's supposed to be a park. That's what everyone wants, is a green thing, not a plaza. And stop talking about it that way. It's in the sector plan, but they never nobody wanted it to be that way. Okay, as for the site itself, no open space at all. And this is really bad, especially with one bonus density and also the other stuff. Perhaps the worst part is the landscape. We'll discuss this in the next meeting. The landscape plan does not provide species and locations of any plants except the trees. Well, I'd like to be able to discuss this when you discuss a landscape plan and say which trees don't belong, which plants are invasive, which ones won't support pollinators. We need this, and I think it's very important that you demand that the applicant provide that list of species of plants. That's the shrubs, the low plants, the vegetation. It should have milkweed for the monarch butterflies. All that's absent. And next month we're going to discuss this, and it just won't be there. We need this. That's the main thing. But again, that height of that building, that was not supposed to be any more than 880 feet, and that was discussed at the sector plan when you made the sector plan update. That's important. Please address it.
Thank you so much. All right, these meetings take a lot of time and energy, so thank you to staff and everybody who put it together. Thank you for the applicant. Thank you for all of you for being here. We'll see you on April 15th. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.